With all the options out there, it's very difficult to decide which trait you should take with each hunter. I got the community to vote on which trait they thought was best for each hunter. Let's begin with Ember. Ember's votes were very one-sided, with 69% voting for Blink. It's a nice number. Ember is a weird one, not a very commonly played hunter, and he's one of the characters that you get at the beginning of the game. Blink is a really important trait for him because he has the weakness of not being very good in the early game. And what does Blink do? It gives you that first hit that you need in the early game. After that, you can swap to pretty much anything you want if you take trump card. So for Ember, getting that first presence is really important, and getting that first down is even more important. So using Blink is the fastest way to quickly deal damage in the early game and to catch up with survivors in the late game, because as we know, Ember isn't very good when dealing with transition kiting. Up next, we've got Smiley Face. 75% of his votes went towards, you guessed it, Blink. I'm starting to see a theme. Smiley Face, once again a hunter that isn't played very often, but once mastered can be such a pain to deal with in high tiers. Doesn't really have that many options to say, because for example Patroller isn't very useful on him. Abnormal could be useful, but you're spending most of your time in chase and you don't really have any downtime. Teleport could be useful, but you can move around the map pretty quickly. And close camping is usually your strategy anyway, so Blink is definitely once again another ability that you would need to be able to get that early hit in the early game, especially since his first hit is usually his rocket hit. So once you've hit them with the rocket hit, they might vault a window and transition away, so you need to use that Blink to be able to catch up and hit them to get them down, so that you can use your strong camping abilities or your strong map pressure in the late game to be able to pressure people off of Cypher machines or to stop the rescue. Ripper. I thought this was going to be more of a close one between two different traits, but he got 63% of his votes voted for Peepers. Yes, I think a lot of us know that Peepers is very popular on Ripper because first of all, it lets you hit people through walls if you use the Foggy Blade through walls. There were rumors that they'd nerfed that and that's not a thing. It's still a thing, don't worry. It also means that he can catch up. It's something that's very important. Especially when he's being tight kited around an object that's a little bit too thick. This gives him the extra movement speed considering that he is a faster hunter once he's invisible, and survivors get slowed when in the peeper radius, and it also helps him to monitor certain areas of the map because once again he can transition relatively quickly back to where he was, so he can slow down Cypher machine progress and camp a little bit better. You can see them, but they can't see you. Next up, we've got Gamekeeper. 41% of his votes was for Blink. Once again, Gamekeeper is a character that wasn't played very much before, but recently has become a little bit more popular as he got his adjustment this year or last year. He is relatively popular with Peepers, I think, just to be able to catch up and deal with tight kiting because that's something that he's not very good at. But Blink gives him that presence that he needs to be able to quickly get up to his infinite hook ability. His infinite hook ability lets him transition around the map, catch up with survivors, and to slow them down by crashing into the area next to them. He's a little bit weak when he's not at full presence, so to be able to get up to presence fast enough, you need to be able to get hits. So Blink gives you that first hit. This is going to be a recurrent theme. You'll see that Blink is mostly taken with those hunters that either don't have any other better options, for example teleport doesn't do much for them because they can already transition better, or when the character has a bad early game so they need to make up for it. Next up is Soul Weaver, and Soul Weaver's an interesting one. I'm never really sure what you're supposed to take with her, but it looks like 68% of people take Blink. I assume, once again, this is because she doesn't have many abilities really in the early game. She does have her webs, and she did get a tiny buff recently, but using her webs in the early game are not too good because you want to save them until like mid game or until you're in a proper chase. So getting that first presence ability by getting one hit from a normal attack and then maybe getting them with a Blink as well will give you that web shot. That is exactly how she camps and slows down survivors and catches up with other people. Geisha. Now Geisha actually had 3 popular traits. First of all, the biggest one, the most popular one, was Teleport with 34% of the votes. Then we've got Blink with 29% and then Abnormal with 21%. I was really thinking that Abnormal would have been the top because I think the Abnormal Geisha is currently what is meta, but maybe the community just sees more of this or plays more of Blink and Teleport. Once you've got someone on chair, you'll be able to teleport to a cipher machine that's nearby and then use your butterflies to quickly catch up to the person who might be transitioning towards the chair. I guess the other strategy is that you can use the butterflies to hit someone who's coming from a distance and then teleport back to the chair. That is also another solution. Blink, I think, is once again just to be able to get a little bit more of a hit in the early game, because she can once again be a little bit weak in the early game. But Blink once again is just her ability anyway, so I'm not really sure why people would take that. Abnormal is just what people are playing right now, because she has this ability to be able to quickly transition around and then use Abnormal to slow the game down. Feaster, once again another hunter that had 3 popular choices. The first one, surprising me, was Patroller with 31%. I have seen Patroller Feasters in the past. The Patroller is used just so that you can get a tentacle hit in the early game and also in the late game and stuff like that. It gives you that tentacle hit that you can then follow up by a charged hit that has the range of a sniper. So Blink and then Peepers follow next with 26 and 24%. Blink would just be once again to be able to get that early presence, because he is a bit of a slow hunter in movement speed, so he might need to catch up with survivors. And I would say that Peepers is used just so he can aim the tentacles a little bit better or just deal with tight kiting. Wu Chang is next. His most popular trait, according to the community, is Blink, again, with 53% of the votes. So this is an interesting one, because I guess he already has teleport inbuilt into his kit. He doesn't really need to use Abnormal, although I feel like Abnormal wouldn't be the worst idea on him at all. Peepers has no real use for him because he can check cipher machines with his umbrella, and Patroller, what would that even do? I'm not completely sure. Wu Chang's biggest weakness, and I've talked about it in a video that I'll probably put somewhere up here, I'm not completely sure where, is that he has a bad early game that makes him a little bit more balanced, and this is why I think he's the most balanced hunter. By having such a slow early game and such a snowbally end game, this means that his early game is the most crucial part. If he doesn't get hits, he doesn't get abilities, and we've talked about this again. Blink gives you presence. A lot of people do take Insolence with Wu Chang, so combining Insolence plus the Blink, you'll get to first presence incredibly quickly, so you can start using your Bell ability or your Soul Cycle ability to catch up with survivors and stop them in their tracks. Photographer's up next, with 69% of the votes, nice number, voting for Blink. Wow, I've said the word Blink so many times. How many times have I said it? Tell me down in the comments below. Tell me at the end of the video how many times I said it. Photographer has some use for teleport, and I have seen teleport taken quite often with him, usually to kind of try and jump scare survivors when you're in the photo world, because you can teleport to cipher machines in the photo world, and then once the thing ends you can just swing and hit at someone that you know was there. Blink is just useful for him because his biggest weakness by far is kiting, because he has nothing really for kiting or anti-kiting. He just has a base chase ability with a pretty decent hitbox. By using Blink, you can make up for the fact that you have no chase, and you can deal with that. Mad Eyes is next, and he has 2 popular traits. His most popular trait is Teleport, with 49% of the votes. Teleport is used just because Mad Eyes usually has the strategy of using the console to quickly down survivors or lower their health by chipping them with different types of wall hits, because each wall does quarter of a damage. And then you can follow up by teleporting to a close cipher machine near that person and then downing them. Or if you got someone down with the walls, you can quickly teleport to that area and then pick them up and put them on a chair. Blink is the second most popular one with 39% of the votes, and this is once again because he just doesn't have any kind of chase ability. Similar to Photographer, they don't have any proper anti-chase, they just have abilities that can pressure the map, slow down cipher machines, but once there's a survivor right in front of them, you just have to deal with the fact that you might be tight kited around one pallet. So using Blink can just kind of mitigate some of these issues and speed up the getting that survivor down. Dream Witch. Not too long ago, her most popular trait probably would have been Blink, but recently she's had a massive change as Blink has been weakened on her, and Patroller has risen with 82% of the votes. Patroller is incredibly strong on Dream Witch, and pretty much every trait is incredibly strong on Dream Witch, because Dream Witch doesn't just use it once, she can use it multiple times in succession because of the ability of each of her leeches having separate cooldowns, and her main body too. One of the biggest strategies you'll see from meta gameplay is the fact that she uses her main body to use a Patroller the survivors cannot see when they're right next to a survivor. They use the patroller to bite the person, and then they'll send a leech that's following close behind to hit them, and then another leech to hit them in quick succession. This is the most popular way of dealing with survivors, and since you can spam patroller so often with Dream Witch, you can understand exactly why people are using it. X-Boy is up next, and he has two popular traits. The first one is Blink, wow, surprise, with 48% of the votes. The second one is Peepers, with 36% of the votes. X-Boy has a little bit of everything, and I would say his toolkit is pretty decent. He has anti-chase, and he also just has quite a decent amount of map pressure. But even though he does have a anti-kiting ability, it doesn't come up too often and is quite temperamental, as some survivors might not have fireballs around them, or there might not be any trees around. So using Blink once again gives you faster presence and deals with those awkward issues when you don't have any abilities that can actually deal any damage to survivors. Peepers is used, I think, mostly just so that people can aim the fireballs better at people through walls, although I have not seen that stop proper X-Boys from sniping at you when they supposedly have no idea where you are. Both of these traits, in my opinion, are really good and have different types of benefits. Those were 12 survivors. If you want to see the next 12 survivors, then you'll need to wait for the second half of this video. If you want to see some other community voted content, then you need to watch this video here. I usually find the content community voting things very interesting.